I don't know how well this will record. I'm obviously out and about places. But I wanted to redo the whole female to male pregnancy video because I wanted to remove any trace of my child. I know that I cannot protect my child forever, but for the meantime, I want them to be anonymous, especially on the internet. I don't want anyone to pick on them because they have a trans dad, and I know there's going to be a lot of criticism because, I went through the pregnancy to have a child, but that criticism should come towards me and not my child, because my child is innocent in this. And as I said, I cannot protect them from everything. It is eventually going to happen, just because these things do. But in terms of things being online, I'd rather it just be on me. That being said, I'll go through and talk about my experience. It might be a little bit more vague, but maybe, somebody else out there who's going through the same thing can kind of watch this, or even if you don't understand, maybe learn something from it. So my partner and I did research. We wanted to start a family. We looked at all the various options that we could do. Where we live, there's no such thing as surrogacy. So basically that wasn't an option for us. If we, went through surrogacy, even if we wrote up like a legal document, whoever carried the child could still take that child away from us. So we didn't want to risk that happening. So I was kind of like, well, if they give full rights to the person who carries the child, then why don't I just use what I have, and then nobody can take our child away from us. I will have full rights of that child, essentially. So that's why we went through the pregnancy, just so that there wasn't a chance that somebody could go and take our child away unless we really messed up in one way or another. The pregnancy itself wasn't easy for me. I had a lot of mental struggles that were quite difficult to get over. When you experience dysphoria and then you go through pregnancy, your dysphoria is basically on steroids. It hits you so hard, and it was painful. I hated every minute of being pregnant, but I knew that I wanted the end result, so I pushed through it as best that I could. But I think because of that, I had other people who were going through pregnancy while I was going through pregnancy saying, oh my god, I love my baby bump, it's so amazing. I hated it. I hated every minute of it. It sucked. And I didn't even have an emotional connection to the baby. I think because my dysphoria was just hitting me so hard. I also had antenatal depression. And while the dysphoria would have played into that, another part that played into that is not everyone around me at the time was supportive. And I struggled a lot with the people who weren't supportive. And that, that made me very disconnected from everything, and it was quite difficult to get through that. Another thing that was really difficult to get through was the physical aspect of it. I had a lot of health issues when going through the pregnancy, and I was in and out of hospital with a lot of problems, generally relating to intense pain, to the point I could barely walk. It was that painful. And everyone at the hospital could see that I was in a lot of pain as well. So I was prescribed painkillers that were safe to consume while pregnant, just to get by. I don't think working through the whole entire pregnancy helped my physical health either. I think that kind of played a role in what's happened to me after giving birth. I now have really bad back problems, and I really struggle to walk without any pain. A lot of the midwives were like, "Oh, it's just your muscles, just walk it off and build up your muscles, and you'll start to feel better." But the more that I exercised, the worse that I felt. So now I'm in the process of getting help for my back, and it's affected my ability to work and work a proper job. And that's been something that I've had a lot of trouble kind of coming to terms with, is that I may not have a normal life that now that I've gone through all of this, but at the same time, the midwives that I worked with at the hospital, they were all really lovely. They were super supportive. They always made sure to use the correct name and pronouns. They were always very helpful and informative, and would change their language to be more inclusive. They'd never really dealt with a pregnant trans man before, and they wanted to learn more so that they could be better educated for when the next trans man comes along and is pregnant. And honestly, I think that's wonderful. I think the midwives at the hospital that I went to did an amazing job. They did an amazing job of looking after me when things went wrong. My water broke, but I had meconium in it, so I had to go to the hospital. I had to be induced because things weren't progressing normally, so I had to be induced. My child got stuck, so they had to cut me open. A lot went wrong, but the end result was a perfectly healthy, happy baby who is developing nicely, who doesn't seem to really have any problems. The only thing that they possibly have is asthma, and honestly, if that's the only thing that's wrong, I'm happy. for everything that I put my body through, for everything that I pushed through, all the stress, the physical pain. I had morning sickness and vomiting all the way through the pregnancy, which sucked. But, my child was born with a full head of hair, and apparently if you're super sick through the pregnancy, you're going to have a child with a full head of hair. So that's something I learned. But I guess I'm a fighter. I push through it. For all of the struggles that I'm going through, all the struggles that I went through, I push through because I have a beautiful child at the end of the day. And I think that's all that really mattered to my partner and I. And sometimes things in life happen that you can't plan for, you didn't expect, or that you didn't even realize. The pregnancy brought out a lot of underlying health issues that, I didn't even know that I had, that now I can get looked into and actually get the help that I need. I'm on a wait list to be checked to be diagnosed for fibromyalgia. I'm waiting to have my back looked into. I'm doing things to try and help myself so that I can be a better parent for my child. And hopefully I recover at the end of all of this. I will say, if you're a trans man who's going to go through a pregnancy, make sure that you have a really good support network, that you have friends who are really supportive, because that helped me tremendously. Make sure you have a really supportive partner, because that also helped me. Make sure your family are supportive and willing to help, because that also helped me. You need the people close to you supporting you, because that's what really matters. Anyone else who, doesn't support you, doesn't support what you're doing, it will suck at the time, but as long as you have a good support network to help you through that, to help you through the awful freaking dysphoria that you will feel, unfortunately, then I think it'll be okay. And everyone's pregnancy is different. Just because my pregnancy was awful doesn't mean that your pregnancy will be awful or that your recovery will be awful. As I said, I have a lot of underlying health issues that the pregnancy just really brought out of me. So they're things that you need to think of, and sometimes, things happen that you can't plan for, you can't account for. But hopefully the end result is what you want and what you're looking for. There will be a wait time after you give birth before you could go back onto hormones. Unfortunately, you've got to wait for your body to kind of recalibrate itself and kind of somewhat go back to normal. A little bit after the birth before you can go back on hormones. So it was a few months before I was able to go back on hormones after the birth. But also you don't want to do things too quickly just in case either. And hey, this isn't for everyone either. But that's all I can think of at the top of my head while trying to keep things brief and vague, while also trying to be helpful. But maybe this information was helpful, maybe it wasn't. Who knows? But I couldn't be happier being a dad, and I want to leave it at that.